Awesome. Thanks, Kristen. So, I think I like muted myself and unmuted myself and then muted myself again. I don't know. I've been running my mouth for a while now, and golly, I tell you what, one of these days I'm gonna get all of this working right, and we're all gonna be amazed. Probably like at my, I feel like once I hit like episode 30, so we're like halfway there now. Because I feel like I did pretty good today, except for that one little deal. But everything else was pretty smooth today, which is good. Okay, hopefully she can hear now, and you guys can hear. And I didn't. Gah. I crack myself up sometimes. At least we didn't go very far in. How long do we go? We only went like 7 minutes. That's not bad, right? Okay. Gotta roll with the punches. So, like I said, we're gonna get this right eventually, and it's gonna be great. And we do. We'll be happy. Somewhere around episode 50. I keep pushing it back. I can give myself room. All right. Now we did this little carpus down here in Payne's Gray as well. So we're trying to come through and just get those little areas closer to the belly done. Yeah, I didn't really want to do that with that bigger brush, because you don't have the control. So we'll come back with a smaller brush where we have more control over it, and we'll just go ahead and knock that out by a little bit. I had to light it a little too heavy. Let's see. Looks a little glarish. Oh, not that down. We don't want to turn it off. There we go. Yeah, that looks better. Well, we got some snow up north from what I hear. Anybody that's up in the great north, I hope you're staying warm and staying safe. Although a lot of the people I know from up there are pretty good at it, so I know you guys are probably doing just fine. Maybe a little bit annoyed. I know my kids surely wish it would snow down here. They love snow. I think snow is more fun when you're a kid, right? To play on it more. You're not trying to drive around on it. Driving around on it sure does seem to make us adults stress out a lot. You don't want to do that. It's too bad the whole world just can't stop for a day when it snows and just let everybody have a day. Woo! Might have to put this back on the stand here pretty soon. It's a whole lot easier to hold them with the bases. And any place we do make mistakes, we're just going to come back and touch up here in a little bit. We'll get our touch-ups in before we finalize it and put washes on. You can, fix it after the washes are going on, but like I explained yesterday, you don't really want to do that, because a lot of times in order to make that happen, you have to work the whole area. So you have to bring the whole area back to a smooth look, and then you're having to rewash it and blah 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 blah. It gets to be a real pain. And it's better if you can just have everything done and touched up and ready to rock and roll before you put your washes on it. That requires a lot of going over the same spots to make sure everything's painted, and you will kind of drive yourself nuts, especially on bigger models. The bigger models, you'll spend a lot of time making sure you got everything before you get before you go to the next steps. And there's, you know, that's how it goes. I'm getting to the point now where I'm so good with my little technique that I use that I usually don't miss things. But every now and again I do, and that's okay. I don't mind. Just give me another chance to get there and look at it. Hey, what's up, Mikkel? How are you, man? You're just getting on to this psychophage, which is a very interesting creature. Oh, we were talking about Tyranids. I was talking about 40k, but my mic was off because, you know, sometimes I just don't do. I just you know, I mess up, and that's okay. I think here soon I'm gonna get pretty good at it. Every now and again I feel like I've got it right, and that's usually when I make the biggest mistakes. Same thing with painting. You got to be careful and don't get too overly confident. Get your checklist. Do your checklist. Check and make sure again. Double check. Triple check. I just got to make sure I keep adding things to my list, and then got to make sure I can execute the whole list before I add things to my new list. You know. Which is all fun and games. Okay, so maybe a little bit more on these back claws. They're still a little bit purplish. We really want to bring that Payne's gray in. That's the color I've been using for most of their claws and stuff. And I like the difference of the color change between the purple and the dark gray. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do, color wise, is we're gonna color in these little vents. And I've been using a magenta to color this in. This is our permanent magenta. It is a yeah, I heard that for sure. It's part of the game. I think everybody's got to learn it if you want to be on YouTube. You got to learn all the little deals. And again, like I said, if you've got that model is dried out, you can usually get that off there. And we're going to be coming back and doing a lot of other work on top of this Naples color. So if we make a little bit of mistake, just rub that off real quick, and we're going to come back to all this later. You just don't want the paint to dry and leave lumps. And try to let the paint get in there. If it feels like your paint isn't sinking in, and you're not getting the ridges right, it means it's probably too thick. So we've got to wet it down a little bit. And a lot of that could just be keeping your brush super clean, keeping your brush super wet. I think everybody struggles with that. Even some of the people I watch that are really good with that, you can see every now and again they get a little ahead of themselves. They gotta go back. Especially if you watch live painting. Like, you know, whenever you see the edits, it's very... Hey, hi Joyce, how are you? I'm glad to have you. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So, I guess, like I said, it's Tyranid. It's a psychophage is what we're painting today. Tyranids are from Warhammer 40k. Warhammer is a strategy game. It's a tabletop, turn-based war game involving different futuristic elements of the galaxy. And Tyranids are one of them. They're kind of like space locusts. They'll come to a planet and they'll eat everything that's on the planet, and then they send everything that's left, including themselves, back up to the hive ship to be reprocessed and turned into material for the next invasion. It's pretty cool. This thing here kind of runs around the battlefield collecting all the parts and ingesting them, and then it goes and puts out the Oh, they drag everything to these pools, and they throw them into the pools, and there's these tendrils that come down from the hive fleet and the hive ships, and it sucks everything up out of these pools that it throws them into. It's really crazy. There's a lot of lore behind Warhammer 40k. 40k means that it's the in the 40,000s of the years. I think they're in the 41st or 42nd millennium now. It's pretty cool. I'm a huge Dune fan, so I like the whole idea of the far, far future. And they pull a lot of Dune into 40k. So if you're a Dune fan, there's things you'll appreciate. You'll see the nods and the kind of fun stuff. But anyway, this goes to an army that is this is going to kind of be probably the guest army here around the house. My two youngest boys stumbled upon one of my friend's tanks, and they're for 40k, and there were actually like 2 or 3 tanks, I think, and they just been sitting in a closet, and I was looking for stuff because we play D&D a lot, and so I was just looking for stuff to use in our D&D game, and they pull it out, and they're like, "What are these?" And I was like, "Oh, those are tanks for 40k." "What's 40k?" "Well, this is 40k." And they're like, "Oh my gosh." So now they have their own armies, and they are gotta get that up. They're working on their own armies. I refuse to do it for them. I will help them, but I don't want to do it for them. I want them to do it. They want to be interested in this, and they want to get involved in it, especially with as expensive as it is. They've got to pay for it or get it for birthdays and Christmases and ask for it for that, because it's a super expensive hobby. And I feel like for them, as a parent, I need them to be into the hobby, not just, oh, I want to play this game because it seems like really cool. And that's what video games are for. Honestly, that's what a video game's for. Like, oh, this game's really cool, I want to play it. Well, that's video games. These games are not like that. This is, you've got a lot of money wrapped up in these plastic models. Not just in cost of the actual model itself, but time. You gotta look at the time you're spending. And guys, listen, don't be afraid to rotate your models around, okay? You're the boss. Don't let the model be the boss. It has some limits that it can do, but you can move it. That's one of the reasons we hadn't attached it to a base yet. I used to say that all the time when I was a chef about the cutting boards. You're in charge of the cutting board. You are. So you need to tell the cutting board where to be. It's important. And there's a distinct lesson to be learned there. Okay. Holy moly. He's a mean looking guy, isn't he? He's got a hold of a marine arm. See, this is the thing. It's like, I don't know what color I want to make the marine. I think I'm just going to make him... We're going to get to that later. But I don't know if you can... There we go. You can see it better there. But, let me take that up just a little bit. There we go. Oh! Bang! I focused it all on my screen. I don't know if it focused it in what you guys can see, but... There we go. That looks good. So this is a marine's arm. And then... I'm not really sure what that's supposed to be on that side. It's definitely some sort of rock and mud. We can come back to all of this stuff later. That's definitely a rock with some girders, so we can get that painted up. We can just black it up for now, and we can deal with it later. That's got a little bit of that. So you can see where that primer got weird on me. Dusty. It was so hot that day. I should have known better. And to let that be a lesson to everybody. Don't prime on hot days. If it's really hot and dry out, it's not a good day to prime. I was in a hurry and I was being stupid. But, like I said, it kind of gave the tops of them this real weird feeling to them, so I've been working with it on the tops. And then I try and rub it off on the rest of it, because it'll rub. It rubs right off for the most part. I was trying to give it a little bit of a zenithal highlight to help with layering. Hey, it's Sebastian. Oh, and I yelled into the mic. I gotta not do that. And not cough into the microphone, because that sounds awful, I'm sure. And so, yeah. Anyway, we're talking about the psychophage and Tyranids and what they do. So there's Tyranids operate in a hive fleet, and every hive fleet is kind of a little different. And so, depending on which hive fleet you're dealing with, is going to be very dependent on their color schemes. So this one is a take on Leviathan. It's not exactly the Leviathan scheme, but it's to me it's a little bit more. Oh, I don't know. The Leviathan scheme can look a little cartoonish, just because of the color scheme it uses. So I just put a little bit of my own spin on it, which is what you should do, really. Unless you really like the 10 art. Like if you want it, like certain things need to look a very certain way. Like a ultramarine, it needs to look like an ultramarine, or a Necron from a certain dynasty. It needs to look like a Necron from a certain dynasty. It wasn't that bad. It's not that bad. It's fun. It's a fun color scheme. But I feel like with Tyranids, you get more play on what you can do. Tyranids and maybe even like Drakari and Eldari, they have a lot more play with their color scheming. I mean, you can custom design Marine chapters to have whatever color scheme you want, but most Marines look like Marines. They all kind of look the same. Standard Space Marine is a standard Space Marine. I mean, this guy's got this different gun and that guy's got this different gun. They've got a couple of cool things, leaders and stuff like that. Like I love the Phobos lieutenant. He looks slick as heck. And your captains and stuff like that will look cool. Okay, yeah. I'll have to send it to you, and I'll post it on the community too. I have one that's it's Buzz and Woody, and Buzz is the Space Marine, and Woody is a Necron, and it's epic. People come up with some of the craziest paint schemes, and I'm here for that. You can do some cool stuff, but like you couldn't do a whole army of Buzzes and Woodies. It would look weird. The Hello Kitty thing, I saw. Yeah, they had a whole army of that. I saw in one of the photos. I think it's from a convention. It was pretty funny. And then I saw one that did. Oh, what is that cartoon? There's a cartoon that my kid, the kids like it. The little kids like it. Bluey. It's like a dog. And there's one that it's the dogs. And I've seen Paw Patrol. I saw them do Eldaria's Power Rangers once. That was hysterical. So there's some cool stuff people do, really neat stuff. I wanted this one to kind of stand out on its own and have its own kind of unique look, but also kind of have the same feel of Leviathan. Because I like heavy metal studios, or heavy metal studios. It doesn't actually have an H, because British people are, that's funny to them. They're teasing themselves. They do like to do that. So, but heavy metal, their studio is really cool, and that's the GW on the tin. If you were art, box art kind of thing. That's who does that. I like their stuff, but I also like to. I'd rather kind of give it my own spin and make it look, unique. Like nobody else has that in particular. Like even with my Necrons, like you can definitely tell what dynasty it is. You can see it. Oh yeah, it's that dynasty because it's got those color schemes, so like that. But people will look at, because of the way I do metal, and the paints I use to do metal are not the same paints that they use to do metal. Because I use a variety of other types of metallics that most modelers don't use. But the metallic in them is super, super awesome. And so I get a lot of questions about, like, hey man, how did you do that? How'd you get that to work? Da, 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 da. So, and this is that Dio purple. I'm not going to try to say that whole name again. Cool Lord. I'm just going to touch up any places where the paint's maybe a little too thin, or I missed, or both. Or maybe I strayed and hit it with something else. There's a couple of different things that you might have done to lead to this point where you need to come through and touch up. Yeah. That's for Alistair's guys. It's pretty cool. They're neat. I've got most of their dynasty. His dynasty is moving. Like there's one of his immortals I'm working on right now. It's cool. I love Necrons. They're neat. I'm actually my army that I'll get back to working on. That's like my army. I'm a Grey Knight guy. I love Grey Knights, but I'm always into the demon slaying. Like no matter what kind of game it is, it probably comes from like the old Diablo games. Like I was really into Diablo when it very first came out. Like Diablo 1 kids. Diablo 1. I was there. You had discs. You had these plastic discs you had to stick in your computer, and you had to tell DOS what to do. You don't even know who DOS is. But I can't work a microphone. How funny is that? I used to know how to do all that stuff, and now I can't even work a mic. So I spent most of my time working in a kitchen. Or maybe I just don't like Mike. Don't like Chef Mike. For those of you who don't know about kitchen lingo, if you ever hear kitchen people say Chef Mike, they're talking about the microwave. Unless, of course, there is a guy who's actually going by Chef Mike. But most guys I know that are named Mike, that are chefs, go by Chef Michael. Or they'll go by their middle name. Or they'll go by their last name. Because of the well-known Chef Mike jokes. Because like most kitchens, the only reason they have a microwave there is for when somebody says their food isn't hot enough, so that we can microwave it. At least in real kitchens, the fast casual is weird. Most of that stuff's in steam wells, so it's just going to be whatever temperature it is when it comes out. And they have to keep that at a regulated temperature because their corporation tells them to. I'm gonna sit on here. I'm gonna paint pieces and I'm gonna talk trash on the industry. That's what I'm gonna do. Only the part of the industry that deserves the trash talking. We're gonna support the guys and gals that are out there doing it the real way every day. Cause I know you're out there too, and I am out of the fight, but I remember the war. Not to be disrespectful for those folks that are working in those places. Everybody's got to make money. But man, we allow those places to be what they are. You could force them to make things more fresh. We just have to all do it together. Here, I'm starting resistance. Like I said, always come back and tighten up your strokes before it dries. It's okay to kind of put it on there any which way you need to, but we want to tighten it up and smooth it out. And don't forget to breathe. It's always important. Especially when you're in a place where you're nervous. Take a step. Take a breath. I'm nervous. I'm nervous painting on live. It always makes me nervous doing that, or at least it has so far. It makes me nervous doing this. Because all the weird things that happen to me. And I have lots of weird things that happen. So I always get a little nervous. I'm usually pretty good by the time we get warmed up and people are rolling in and talking. Yeah. Back in my day, the internet yelled at you when it started. That's my best Deckard Cain impersonation right there. I always wanted to have, like, the guy who does Deckard Cain reading jokes, because it would be like that. I feel like it'd be bad dad jokes if it were Deckard Cain. What did the one hat say to the other hat? You stay here, and I'm going on ahead. I love that silly game. I'm such a nerd and a weirdo. We got 7 views rocking and rolling. That's pretty cool. I think we're going to switch to a bigger brush for right now. Pull out this number 4 round so we can get through and do this second coat on the bigger part of the carapace. Get that back up in view for you guys. So, yeah. Yeah, man. Like, you could have that guy. It's one of those, like, Morgan Freeman. You know, Morgan Freeman could narrate anything. You know, and James Earl Jones was that way, too. You could have James Earl Jones narrate anything. He sound great. And there's lots of people like that just have these voices where you're like, oh, my gosh. Like, Luton stuff. If you're a 40K fan, go look up Luton. That guy has a great voice, man. He does 40K lore. And his voice is smooth. It's so good. And then there's another guy that's got a great voice named Baldemort. And he is awesome. He's got this gravelly kind of, I don't know, his voice is like a creature. It's awesome. It sounds grimdark. Luton sounds like a researcher from a time after humanity has recovered from 40K, and he's doing the research back to tell you about it. But Baltimore, man, he's like, it sounds like he's the servo skull at your shoulder talking. It's crazy. For anybody who doesn't know what a servo skull is, if you did well enough in life as a civil servant, for even is always my celebrity free pass list. I dig it, bruh. Pillow talk with Morgan Freeman. I can see it. I can dig it. But yeah, crazy. That's funny. So, yeah. So servo skull is a if you do really well as a bureaucrat, or, you know, some sort of, you know, servant for the empire, and you do, or imperium, sorry, then you can, they will use your skull and they will turn it into essentially like a living computer. Yeah, there's a whole lot of details in it, but they use cybernetic technology to turn your skull into a floating machine. Different servo skulls can do different things. If I remember correctly, it just depends on what they're designed for. magenta in there, or in the magenta, it'd be all right. Yeah, we're gonna do those stalks with the other brush. This one's a little too big. But you'll see them if you watch any kind of 40K stuff, or you get involved in any of the fandom for 40K, and you start looking at pictures. You'll see a servo skull eventually. They're very common throughout the whole deal. See, and I've got a little bit on my yellow, so I just want to clean it up real quick. That's why we let our coats dry between sessions, so we can get in there and just take care of that real quick. So that was a pretty decent stroke on there that we just pulled out and fixed real fast. Now we're going to come back, and underneath this we're going to roll that magenta again, but we're going to get all this purple done first, because by the time this thing's all said and done, it's got a lot of colors going on it. I really need to pull on the prime so you guys can see what the finished result of the paint scheme looks like. I should get that out for the next session. Okay. So again, the second coats here, we're trying to make sure we get the depth of color we want. Because of this, I need this purple to be pretty deep, and we're gonna deepen it up with a wash after this. But we want it to start off with a pretty good depth of color, deep dark purple, because we'll bring this up and highlight the tops of it till it becomes more like a lavender or the pale violet on the top. But we want to work this one up a little bit different than our Princess Bride project. That one, those pieces were so much smaller than this, and the details were so much harder to get to. All we could really do is do a highlight or a wash and then highlight it and pick out the details. That's where we were with it. This project, this thing's huge. I mean, it literally could eat all of that crew from the Princess Bride. Not just like the cast and the crew, but like the entire town that they filmed it in, and the country that they filmed it in. The planet, basically the planet that they filmed it in, the Tyranids would just eat it. That is their theme song, the parody that Weird Al Yankovic did of Beat It, Eat It. That is 100% Tyranids, man. They were discovered, what was that? Tyran was the place they were discovered first, or the first real recorded interaction with them, with the modern Imperium. They found like a barren planet, husk of a world, kind of like when the Borg show up, if you're a Star Trek fan. Man. Man, I don't know, man. Andre the Giant might be able to pick this thing up and body slam it. Just because we got to give Andre some respect. Put some respect on that man's name. He lived a painful life, that guy. And entertained a lot of people even now, people are still entertained by Andre. And I like Carrie Elways, man. He's a heck of an actor. And you got was Manny Patinkin in there, man. And you went to God, it's such a great movie. Now I'm so glad we're done with that project, but God, I love that movie. Anyway, if you didn't see the Princess Bride project, go back and watch some of our other episodes. And I think now that it's done, I don't know. I'm wondering if I can't splice a video together of it all. and start to do like, oop, get that up there. Start to do like a finished, like a more polished video. I really should. I'm just not good at that part, so I gotta learn how to do it, and it may take me a minute. What was that? What's the one they're always advertising? Skillshare. Feels like everybody's advertising that stuff. Well, I'm a little shaky today. I didn't even drink any coffee. Rattle, rattle, rattle. Again, you're just trying to make sure you're really getting it smooth, and move your brush strokes down the piece, whichever direction that's going to let you go. It always makes sense when you're doing it. Sometimes it doesn't make sense always when you're talking about it, but when you're doing it, you're trying to move down the piece. See, like this one, the carapaces stack on top of each other in the segments, so we're trying to move down the piece, down, 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 down. Use shortcut to edit videos. It's free. I no idea what that is. I'm gonna check that out, and I'll see if I can't figure that one out. I like that shortcut to edit videos. Mikkel is like he's like my Obi-Wan Kenobi. He tells me how to get there. Unfortunately, I'm not a Luke Skywalker. I'm more like Darth Vader. So like I don't listen very well, and I'm arrogant and plucky. Oh shit. Alright, so I left this little spot down here open because this is like a hive tendril. As the Tyranids take over a place, they kind of they push out this kind of like psychic net kind of thing. I don't know if psychic's exactly the right word, but it helps them all kind of stay linked. So I guess it is kind of psychic. Just not in the way we're used to. Hey buddy, what's up? This is my youngest son. He's a lot of help. He brings me waters and things like that. Hey, can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
In the miniature cabinet is the winged prime Tyranid.
What?
The one that's got the wings. In the cabinet, the Tyranid.
Which cabinet?
The miniature cabinet. The one that has the miniatures in it. Are you serious? This child.
I don't know what that one is.
Over there by where all the D&D stuff is in the living room.
Yeah.
Where we play games.
Yes.
Go in there and get the thing that looks like this and bring it back. It doesn't look quite like this. It has wings. But you know... Okay.
Bring it right back.
It's okay, Papa Darth. That's funny. Did you watch Rebel Moon? All I could think of was watching. I haven't seen Rebel Moon yet. I don't. Yeah, I'm really picky about movies. The next movie I'm gonna see is probably gonna be Dune 2. I'm gonna see the second part of Dune, and I'll probably go to a movie theater even if I gotta wear a mask or whatever. Although last time I went, it was like in the middle of the night, and there was nobody there. It was great. But I'm gonna go see Dune in IMAX because, like, if for those of you who don't know much about me, like Dune is my absolute jam. If they made a Dune war game, I'd stop playing. I would stop messing with Warhammer altogether. Because Dune is just that cool. Like, Dune is awesome. Anyway, so put a little bit of this magenta in here. And the reason I waited to do this after I'd done the tongue is I wanted the tongue to dry up before I did this. because I don't want to smooth. I didn't want to smear it. Yeah, Kristen and I went and saw the first one in theaters because it had come out right around my birthday, so we got to go see it for my birthday, and it was so good. And people who and there's always people who don't like something. So, but as somebody who really, I know all the books, and I know these characters, I know them well, and I know that Hollywood has to do certain things to make money, and the things that they chose to do, I thought were tasteful enough to where they worked, and it was well done. Visually, it looked great. Awesome. That's the one. Good job, son.
Is it the big one or the small one?
Well, I mean, you could have brought them both.
I don't know what the big one is.
Okay, so here's the color scheme we'll be going for. This is the Tyranid Prime. There we go. Now it's focused in. This is our Tyranid Prime for the same army. Okay, so this is our concept art. Well, this is our second concept. The first concept is it's in there. And it looks a little bit different from this, but not enough to be that big a deal. But anyway, so it'll end up looking a lot like this guy. And I might use the yeah, man, the score from Hans Zimmer was tight. So, but anyway, that's yeah, we'll just leave this. I don't want to leave it too close to Bob. Oh, I gotta move my paintball. Well, I showed off some of your Necrons. Yes, we were talking about Necrons. So anyway,
I'm gonna go back to watching my video.
All right, son. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your help. So, excuse me. If that's that is our concept art. So we're gonna strive to get that. And since I came up with it, it should be pretty easy. So I should know what I'm doing. Should be in the operative word. Oh my goodness, get in there. Again, don't be afraid to move it around. You are in control of the model. That is how it is. Which is why I might move this camera again eventually. Because it definitely I keep clanging it. Although this is one of the big long brushes. It's not so big a deal when it's with the little tiny ones. These big brushes make it a little hard. But it's good for really getting in there. Again, I'm painting down, out of the mouth. Always kind of, you got to figure out which direction it's got to come out of with everything you're doing. Wow, this thing's a nasty looking mother, isn't it? Get in there. Put some paint on it. Alright. We're going to do this a little bit. And it always looks wild when we first get these coats on. I'm always like, it's good. It looks awful. And then all of a sudden it's done and you're like, oh wow, it looks great. But these parts take a while. They're having a conversation back there, listening to my children. Alright, because we want this to all be kind of this fleshy color. And I'm going to leave the tendrils as the scene. Right there I can see I missed with my yellow. So we'll be coming back with the yellow again. It will probably, I was hoping we were going to get this done today, but I don't think we will. I was hoping to get the base coats done, not the whole thing, but I don't think we're going to make it that far. It's a lot. Alright. There's a perfect example of get it on there however you want and then come back and tighten up your brush strokes. Tighten them up, tighten them up, tighten them up. Trying to get the color deep in there, but we don't want to leave those brush strokes going every which way because it will make it, in the end it'll streak it in a way that you can't, like every time you put paint on it, it's still gonna have that same like look. Okay. So now these little fleshy jaws are out. Switching back to my little brush. Gonna start taking a look at the rest of this side. So cool. These things are so fun. Nice. Okay. Now, what I was doing with them is these insides are this magenta as well. So we're going to go in and put a little bit of that in there on these knuckles. And I'm not jamming that brush down in there. It may look that way, but I am just gently putting it in there and trying to get the paint to move around the edges of it. Do not force it with your good brush. If you need to, sometimes you have to jam it down in there. Use your older brushes that are torn up already for that. Don't use your good new brushes. This is a good new brush. We don't want to do it. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm going to start to kind of create this layering of these different color tones to make this seem more flesh-like. These creatures are organic, so we want them to we want to be able to represent that. We want their colors to blend around. So some of these sinews, I'm doing this magenta color. So we have that purple and the magenta. The magentas are on these interior sections. And then the hard things that they would use to, kill stuff with, or, slice things open. I want that Payne's gray, because it's chitin or hard nail or whatever. Okay, so we're also going to do this line of magenta around the edge of this fleshy stuff. Those bones will come out. They're going to come out a different color, but this edge of this fleshy sac where our carapace is attached, not that far in. There we go. We're going to bring this in, because our next stage is going to be to blend. Once we put our washes in, we're going to blend from magenta into the other colors to get the overcolors. It's an interesting technique, but it'll look really great when it's done. That guy over there. Maybe if I scoot over. Hey, there we go. That's probably helpful. And again, if you get over a little bit, just come in and clean it up. We are going to blend a lot of this up, so it's okay if we make some little mistakes. We're not stressing it too much. And we also haven't gone back to fix our Naples yellow, so if it's too much of a deal, we'll just fix it in the cleanup. The last stage of the cleanup. Yeah, I really enjoy painting these guys. They're especially Citadel models. As much as people like to complain about the cost of these things, their models are so easy to paint. Like, it's not some. I've painted a lot of different kinds of models, and some of them just you can't even make sense of what's what sometimes. Citadel makes it pretty evident what you're looking at, even with it's something you don't even know what kind of creature it is. You're like, oh, well, that's where this attaches to itself, and That's what we should put on our first merch line. I don't know. I've been watching too many other YouTubers trying to figure out what they do. Trying to figure out what to put on the Patreon and stuff like that for these different tiers. That stuff's pretty interesting. I don't really know exactly which route to go with it, so I'm always kind of wondering. Now this will be fun. What I want to do here is I just want to fade this from this magenta, that dark purple. So we're definitely gonna do the insides of this magenta, but we'll do the tips in the darker purple. Eee. Every model is gonna have places where it's hard to get to, but oof, get in there. Ah, I'm shaking bad today. Stop. I'm a big fan of dry brushing too. I like that technique. It's fun. I think it works best on large things. Trying to dry brush the little details and stuff never works out as well. But yeah, this the carapace here, we'll be dry brushing that for sure. And probably these edges, we'll dry brush that down too, just to get it to look right. The dry brush gives you that nice smooth look. Goodness. I hope I'm not getting a sinus infection again. Seems like I get one of those 2 or 3 times a year now. That ain't no fun. And remember, keep track of where you are on the model. What are we painting? What are we looking at? Why are we doing it? Super important. Kind of can get lost in what you're doing easily, You kind of forget your, hey, I'm supposed to be doing this. I got a little bit too much water in that brush that time. You can see how runny it is. Well, that's good to see, though. Help you kind of understand what that means when you see it. If it's got too much water in it, it'll act like a glaze or a wash, which right now isn't that big of a deal as long as we can make sure it evens out. We'll be coming back through there anyway. Okay, so same thing here with the carapace. We want to give all these edges where we can see the flesh coming to the bone parts or the bottom carapace piece or whatever. We're going to try and get this magenta around it. And again, we don't need to worry too much about it looking super clean, because when we go back and we do the blending on top of all this, you won't even notice. This is just to kind of, well, number one, it sets our marker. It sets our marker down, says this is what we're doing here, kind of gives us an idea what the color scheme is, and it gives us the depth of color as we build this up, because the wash that's going to go down on top of this will be a brown wash, and then we'll come back and start with magenta here and then pull it to this Naples yellow, kind of at the height of the biggest bulges there are, especially on this abdomen thing. We really want it to have multiple colors and fade in and out of itself. It'll look cool. This is also going to help us hide, like I said, any of those little mistakes that we made coming through on here. We can hide a lot of this doing this. So that's super helpful. The way I put these colors down is important too, like the which colors go down when. It's not something I've been talking about. I probably should have, but we wanted to get the yellow and the purple down first, and this blue really didn't matter. I just did it to have it done before I started putting this magenta and the other accent colors on. See, because now we can really kind of see which direction we're going, and we kind of see how the color scheme is going to work for us. And like I said, we're pretty close to what it is on the 10. It just it's gonna look a little bit different by the time it gets done. It looks a little different. Oh, here comes my kitter. Yeah, we're gonna make. Don't step in the pallet. Don't step in the pallet. Don't. Oh, almost. Hi, cat. What time is it? Don't step in the pallet. Don't step in the pallet. Don't step in the pallet. Oh, it's time for me to be done anyway. Thank you for coming to tell me. Hello, sweet. Hello, sweet. This is Miss Octavia right here again. I think we've seen her before. She's still in her time, so she needs a little bit extra attention. And we've got to go to soccer. Are you ready to go?
Oh.
Told him to be ready to go. Not ready to go. So, thanks for coming to see me. It was a lot of fun. We'll get back to working on this more psychophage. I'll look up some of the more nitty-gritty details about this specific character thing, and I'll tell you guys more about it. But we'll do that, and then we'll move on to doing the Screamer Killer. I think I might work on getting these termagants done while in between, and we'll just kind of show them as we go. That way you can see them. And then anything that's like a fun, more entertaining squads, we'll do those on the lives. Anywho, it's great to see you. Thank you all for so much for coming. We really appreciate it, Octavia and I. We're gonna get on. I gotta take kids to soccer, and I go picking up. Bye, kidders. I'll go pick up these kids. You guys have a great day. Thank you so much for coming. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the little bells, blow the little whistles, send it to the folks you know. If you do know anybody who's miniature painters and or people who are starting out miniature painting, send them over here. We love to have them, even if it's just to discuss what we're doing or to talk about lore or whatever. So I hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you next week because it's Friday. So we'll check you next week. Have a great one. Bye.